can't get here soon enough as far as I'm concerned. But we got a lot to do before then, right? Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft was released today. We told you about Mel having the Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza at 1. But after 1, the picks get really interesting. Mel, round out the top 4 picks. Start us with the Jets at 2.
Yeah, spring training baseball's underway. I was watching the Blue Jays, Yankees earlier today, and I'm going to throw a little curveball, Laura. And when I got, Caleb Downs going at 2 to the Jets for that reason. It's a kid who obviously is worthy based on performance at Ohio State and Alabama, where he stepped in right away as a true freshman for Nick Saban and did a great job in that Crimson Tide Deep Patrol. Did it for 2 years at Ohio State for the Buckeyes. And this is a kid who intercepts passes at 2 each year, and he's a guy who has versatility. And you talk about second pick overall, is it too high? I say, no, it's not. Eric Turner went second overall. Eric Berry went 5th. Sean Taylor went 5th. And a host of others went early that hit big. Kyle Hamilton, what a great player he is, dropped to 14. We talk about, Nick Emanwari, early second round. What an impact he had with the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. So, no, it's not too high. They did not intercept the pass last year. The Jets did not. He's going to talk about culture change. He's going to set the bar high. He's not going to tolerate anything but a winning attitude, a winning approach on that football team. I understand you could go edge rusher with David Bailey or an all-around guy like Arvell Reese, but safeties with the instincts and the versatility of Caleb Downs and getting it done for 3 different coordinators in college speaks volumes. His father I scouted, his brother, he's been around football his whole life. This kid's one will of a player, and he is as instinctive as any safety you will ever come across.
Yeah, so I love that. As you round out that top 4, Caleb Downs to the Jets, David Bailey to Arizona, Arvell Reese to Tennessee. Let's talk a little bit more about the Jets and Caleb Downs at number 2. Lewis, that's something we haven't seen in over 30 years, the Jets going safety. You like that pick?
Yeah, you know what? By you saying that you haven't seen it in over 30 years, you know what you're doing? You're dating me. You're making me feel old. Because the last time a guy was drafted that high, I was his teammate, Laura. We came out in the same draft. It was Eric Turner who went to the Browns. And look, and you know what? And I loved him. He was my best friend in football, and I miss him dearly. He passed away years ago. But I'll tell you what, I understand why Mel is talking about Caleb the way he is. And he's talking about a culture changer. And what do you need more at the Jets than a guy who's just going to come in and say, hey, look, I don't know what y'all have done before, but I ain't used to losing, and we're not having that crap around here. We're changing the way things are going to get done. And that's not Aaron Glenn's job to do. That's something that needs to be policed in the locker room. And you know what this pick reminds me of exactly what DeMeco Ryans needed to do when he went to Houston, and he drafted Will Anderson Jr. That's the kind of guy that you need, a guy who is going to be a foundational pillar in the organization. I just would like it to be someone who plays either on the second or first level, a guy who's a pass rusher, a guy who's going to change games with impact plays. That's why I say Arvell Reese there, who comes from the same program as Ohio State, but I understand why Mel is mocking Caleb Downs there and the reasons why he's doing it.
And one thing, Laura and Lou, about Arvell Reese, the versatility, off ball and edge. Can he be Micah Parsons? Can he do what Micah did? Go from off ball to being an edge rusher who can get after the quarterback and be one of the best in the business. Can he be that guy? We hope he can. In terms of David Bailey, he did it this year at Texas Tech. After being a good player at Stanford, he became great with the Red Raiders. So for Arizona, for Tennessee, I think of Robert Saleh taking over. Arvell Reese would look great in a Titan uniform. Certainly David Bailey in an Arizona Cardinal uniform would look great. But I think if you look at Caleb Downs and he gets past 2, how about the New York Giants and John Harbaugh looking at 5 if he gets to that point? He had Kyle Hamilton. Now he can bring in Caleb Downs. So even if he gets past 2, Caleb Downs is not going to have to wait long to hear his name called.
A reason why the Jets might want to draft him, by the way, the Jets became the first team to not record an interception since INTs were first recorded in 1933. That's a side of history that you don't want to be on. All right, new on NFL Live. Let's stay with the Jets. Rich Cimini tweeting this, suggestions that the Jets will tag Breece Hall if they can't get a deal done by next week, making it clear that they want to keep Hall, but that's a timeline to keep an eye on for sure. Let's stay in the division and head to Buffalo, where Joe Brady and Brandon Beane spoke about plans for their offense, including Keon Coleman's future.
The challenge to Keon, can you go back and do what you did all off season and your training camp? And, if you remember, you had a great game 1 against Baltimore. Don't let some of the maturity issues off the field affect the product on the field.
A lot of people think the only way to help Josh Allen is to get him offensive help, right? Sometimes helping Josh Allen is is inside the building, like just things inside the building. Sometimes it's helping him with a defensive player, with getting him the ball back another possession like that. All of those things help Josh Allen. So there's a lot of different ways, and that's the perk of Brandon Beane, is he goes through all those little things. And I'm never gonna. Josh Allen is at the root of everything we think of. We think about Josh Allen, and whatever we can do to help him have success, we're gonna do.
Hey, that makes a lot of sense, right? Hello, there's the big board. Love it. In Mel's latest mock, he has Buffalo adding some wide receiver help for Josh Allen with Washington wideout Denzel Boston. Listen, no matter what happens with Keon Coleman, Mel, they could use some help there. Is that the thought behind this pick?
Yes, it is, Laura. And there's a couple teams there. You talk about Cleveland Browns. If they don't take a Carnell Tate and they need a receiver like Denzel Boston, would be in the mix there. We talked about the Eagles, with Boston being a possibility there. Another guy, the big body receiver, who's so consistent and so professional in his approach. And he varies in terms of his routes, his speed in his routes. He's a guy who can run the route tree. He was an outstanding football player for the Washington Huskies. People, I think, didn't see enough of him. They don't understand the quality of this player and what he can mean to an NFL team that brings him into the fold. So Denzel Boston all year is one of the top 5 receivers in the country. Certainly, if he's there in the latter portion of round 1 for a ton of teams, about 3, 4, 5 teams that could be looking at Denzel Boston at that point. Chris Brazel, the second wide receiver out of Tennessee, would certainly be in that mix if he has a strong combine, which I anticipate. But Denzel Boston is a proven entity. Say if he goes to Buffalo and Josh Allen, he's not going to drop the ball. He's going to be dependable, reliable, and he's going to show up every week, do a job, and that's what they need in Buffalo right now.
That is music to Bills fans' ears and probably to Josh Allen's ears, although he's the ultimate professional about all that. I'm glad you brought up Brazel, too. Just continue to talk about the depth of that receiver class this year. New on NFL Live, Dolphins GM John Eric Sullivan spoke earlier about the Dolphins' plans for Tua Tagovailoa and the team's QB position.
As it pertains to Tua, I know that question is coming, so I'll just get ahead of the curve. We've had conversations with Tua and his representation. Everything's on the table, including the potential of a trade. We don't know which way that's going to go. There's a lot of different factors at play, a lot of conversations being had. Tua, I thought, even though things didn't go well at the end of the year, did some good things along the way. And it's my job to infuse competition into that room along with every other room as we go down the road. As it pertains to the Miami Dolphins, listen, I think I'd be lying to you. Any team that is potentially in a needy quarterback situation, if they tell you they're not talking about Malik Willis, that would be a lie. But we've talked about a lot of people, a lot of free agents. Malik's just one of them.
And that was really interesting. A lot there, certainly, Lewis. And we know that's the question for Miami. What are they going to do with Tua? You heard a lot of it's on the table, but let's put you in that GM spot. If you're the Dolphins, what is your plan for the quarterback spot this offseason?
Yeah, I think obviously you'd love to have Malik, especially, considering Jeff Hafley's, familiarity with him. And those are the kind of things that you look for when you're talking about veteran player acquisition. But look, Tua has a $99 million, dead cap hit. He has $54 million coming this year, fully guaranteed. They may have to ride with him for another year. Where next year, I believe his dead cap number kind of decreases to about $32 million. And it makes it a lot easier to move on from him, because right now, I just don't know if the trade market's going to be real hot for Tua, considering how the season ended and what people feel as though, Mike McDaniel did to, really accentuate his strengths and minimize his weaknesses that maybe they're not willing to do. And they may feel as though, look, this is not someone who we need to go ahead and go out and pursue. So Miami may be stuck with him for another year. I think everything is on the table right now, and I think John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley know that.
Hey, you heard what Sullivan said there, too, about infusing competition into that room. That almost gave me a little hint that he might expect Tua to be sticking around. All right, still to come. Steelers GM Omar Khan turned some heads at the Combine today. You don't want to miss what he had to say about their future at quarterback. Mel filling us in on who he has Pittsburgh taking in his latest mock. We'll see if Lewis agrees. That and so